everybody, Mac here. Welcome back to the show. Welcome to week 3 of Retrotember. Today we are taking a look at oh wait, I'm sorry. Why, how did this get here? This is only my Lightning Collection Red Ranger, autographed by Austin St. John himself. I'm sorry, this is here for no reason at all. Let's just get this out of the way so that we can take a look at what was behind it. So go ahead and leave us a like for the Red Ranger and for this. This is the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Reignition Basic Figure 6-pack. The Red Ranger, the Blue Ranger, the Black Ranger, the Green Ranger, the Pink Ranger, and the Yellow Ranger. All of the originals from Mighty Morphin. These are not the head flippers. These are the actual Reignition figures proper. Now, currently, you cannot get these individually. You can only get them in the 6-pack. You can even see right here, it says, this is a set, do not open. This is the mailing box that they come in. But if we open this up, inside here is the actual product box that we have, and you can see all 6 Rangers lined up. I love this look right here. I think this packaging is really slick. I really like this. Currently, this box set is only available at Walmart. And I don't know about where you live, but currently I can only get this online. It is still available online, time of recording. I will leave a link to the Walmart page where you can get this in the show notes below if you should want to grab a hold of this. Now, something else that I like about this is that even though it's a Walmart exclusive, like I said, it is in stock, time of recording, but this isn't very expensive. This is like less than, I think it was like between $50 and $60 when I picked it up for all 6 figures right here. So it's actually, going by today's figure standards, kind of a deal, but we'll discuss that once we actually get this open and take a look at the figures inside, because then once we pop this open, each figure is also individually boxed inside in order, and they all actually do line up with the images on the front of the box. So right here next will be the Black Ranger, and then we'll have the Yellow Ranger right here. So this is the packaging for the individual Rangers right here. And you can see that they're all basically going to be the same. I'm pretty certain that pretty much all the guys are going to have the same bucks. The females will have the same bucks. But they're pretty much all going to be the same across the board. Only difference going to be the color of them, the weapons they come with, and the headpieces, the helmets. So give me a moment. Let's get all of the Rangers out of the primary box, and let's take a look at the individual boxings. I swear, taking them all out, it's like a bunch of Russian nesting dolls right here. But as you can see, the packaging is all basically the same across the board. They all have the same design, the only difference being the color, the helmet that you see, and then the name across the bottom. You can see the Yellow Ranger's helmet, Blue Rangers, the Black Rangers, pink, and then red right there. So other than that, packaging is going to be the same. The windows are going to be the same. Also on the back, we have write-ups, bios for each of the Rangers right there that let you know a little bit about them. Has a bio, then their name, their skill set, the personality, weapons, and the dinosaur that they pilot, which I think is very cool. I like that. Also gives you a little bit more of an impetus to keep the boxes because of that. I'm very curious to see how they are going to repackage once we open them, because there are a lot of plastic ties in there holding the figures and the accessories in. I'm curious to see if Playmates set it up that you can pop them back in and they'll stay in, or if once we cut those bands and we try and lay them back in the plastic, are they going to flop around in there once we try and rebox them? Either way, I do appreciate that there's at least an attempt of making a reboxing possible, especially like if you are an in-box collector or if you just want to store them in their boxes. Taking a look at them, first blush, what I'm seeing is they are small. They are smaller than like a 1/12 scale figure. They are not going to be 6-inch figure. I can tell you that right off the bat. So there's no way these are going to size up with the Lightning Collection figures. So I know I was joking around about my autographed Lightning Collection figure, but I just happen to have him here. I mean, if you look at that, I know he's elevated a little bit more in the box, but there's no way these are going to be the same scale as Lightning Collection. So if you were hoping that these were going to sort of fill in the gaps for your Lightning Collection, I don't think that's going to happen. What I do think, and I've seen other videos mention this, that it's almost like they're making these to maybe shoehorn into the old Bandai series. I don't know. I don't have any Bandai figures, but I've heard a couple of people mention that these would go real well with like the Bandai play sets, like the Command Center, and size up pretty well with the monsters as well. So now, without further ado, let's just get them out of their boxes and take a look at the Playmates Toys Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Reignition series. Okay, here they are, our teenagers with attitudes, the entirety of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers team out of their boxes, and putting the tape measure to them, we can see that the girls are 4 3/4 to the top of their helmets, while the boys are 5 1/4 to the top of their helmets. Okay, so we're not going to be looking at each Ranger individually, because quite honestly, there's only 2 figures in this whole set. There's the boys, and there's the girls. Trini and Kimberly have the same body, buck, limbs, articulation, everything. Tommy, Zach, Jason, and Billy all have the same body, buck, limbs, articulation, and everything. Honestly, the only difference across the board on these is their color, their helmets, and Tommy has his vest, Kimberly has her skirt. That's all there is to this. So we're going to be taking a look at one of the boys and one of the girls as far as articulation goes. And we're going to start with the boys, and let's just pick one at random. Oh, I don't know, Tommy the Green Ranger. So let's take a look at him. And first of all, let's take a look at the weapons. We have his flute dagger right here. Whoop, come on. And all of them have their signature weapons. It would have been cool if Tommy would have come with the Sword of Darkness too. He doesn't, unfortunately. He has his blade blaster and his flute dagger. And I think they did a good job on it. This is a very soft rubber. You can see that it's a very soft rubber. It has a lot of bend, a lot of give. It's not going to break. But the color, the paint apps, the detail, the design, I think this is really good. It's a little chonky in the handle. You may have noticed that when he was holding it. Also, it's oversized for the figure. But we're going to see that with all of the weapons across the board, which you'll see when we take a look at Kimberly's bow as well. So this is a little oversized for him, because if you take a look here, his grip has to stretch a little to get his hands around it. And you can see, like, it's almost the size of a short sword. Now, if you want to get them down so that, like, the flute buttons, I don't know what they're called, you can just turn it and then push it down, and then he's holding it like that. So he can get a better grip on it. The other weapon that they all come with is their blade blaster right here. Now this is the pistol version, and I'm sure you noticed that they all have a holster that they can put their blade blasters in. So there you go. But also all of them come with the blade version of the blade blaster, not just the blaster version. And 100%, this looks like a turkey carver. I always thought so. I know a lot of people do. I know I'm not saying anything new, but my God, that looks like an electronic turkey carver. So let's get Tommy back up here. Let's get his weapons off of him. And let's take a look at the articulation on him. Now, the head will do a full 360 spin. He doesn't really look up. He doesn't really look down. He has a little bit of that right there. He has a very little tilt side to side, which I think is more just a loose joint. I don't think it was actually meant to do that. The arms will do a full 360 spin, even with his rubber vest on, because this is a very soft rubber. As a matter of fact, you can see where it's pegged in his chest right here. Arms will come up to there, not even to 90, so there's limited articulation there. Elbows, single jointed elbows that don't come up to 90. They come in at that angle right there, but it is a single hinge and pivot. So he does have pivot right there at the elbow. Wrists will pivot, but there is no up and down. There is no in and out. They just swivel. Torso, nothing, not even a turn. No crunch, no turn, no nothing. This is all a solid piece. Legs, you can see some ugly trenching right there for the joints, but we get some decent movement out of him because his legs will come up to roughly 90. You can also see there's a little bit of color difference between his thigh and his calves. Legs will go back to there. Legs do not come out to the side at all in this position. However, if we turn it, and man, that is an ugly pin. And normally I don't care about pin versus pinless, but man, those are ugly pins. But if we turn the leg like that, then we can bring it up fully to 90. We can also reposition the foot. So it kind of looks like he's getting that out to the side kick. Knees, single joint, roughly to 90. Hinge and swivel, which you just saw. And the feet, no backwards, no forwards, no side-to-side rock, but they do pivot completely around if you want them to. So that is the articulation for the boys. So let's put Tommy down. Let's pick up Kimberly. Once again, we have her bow right here, and you can see that it's a little chunky. However, I think Kimberly's bow and probably Billy's lance are the best proportioned to the figures that we have. And you can see, like, there's some decent detail on the bow right there. I really like this. I like the paint apps they use on it. On this side, it's pretty blank, but I think, honestly, that's the way that it's supposed to be. If I remember the show right, that it was only really painted up on one side because when it formed the Mega Blaster, it laid down like this across the axe, and then the sword went across the top. By the way, no, the accessories do not form the Mega Blaster. They do not have that capability. They are painted very nicely, though. So let's set the bow down for now. And she's going to have pretty much the same articulation, that her head will do a full 360. There's really no up, there's really no down, limited side to side. Arms, full 360 spin. Arms come up to there, under 90. Hinge, single jointed elbow. Hinge and swivel at the elbow. Wrists pivot, no up and down, no in and out. Nothing here at the waist. The only thing that hinders articulation on Kimberly is her skirt right here, because her legs don't come up as far as Tommy's did. If you turn and bring this one out to the side, there is a split in her skirt that is hidden by the holster of her blade blaster. But on this side, it does get in the way and kind of wants to kick the leg back down. Once again, knees. Oh, looks like her knees don't come up as far as Tommy's do. Hinge and swivel at the knee. And the ankle just does a full 360 pivot. That's the boys, that's the girls, and that is it. So let's talk about this. Let's be honest. These are not intended for the adult collector. These are children's figures, and that is perfectly fine because Hasbro is trying to get kids back into Power Rangers. There's no doubt about that. We all know that. We've all come to accept that. However, I can completely see Lightning collection collectors being upset that there's nothing right now that's going to continue the legacy of the Lightning collection. We don't know if Playmates has any plans to do something to go with the Lightning collection. Honestly, I doubt it. The only paint app issue that I had on all of these figures was right here. My Green Ranger has a nick in the torso. And of course, it had to be my Green Ranger. And that is disappointing. But when you take a look at the helmet, look at the detail of the paint apps. Look at the design. Look at how tight all of the paint apps are on the helmet right here, on the gold bands around his arms, his belt buckle, his belt, his boots, everything. The paint apps are clean. This is the only mark that I have. They are very clean. Like, let's bring up Billy and take a look at his helmet with the Triceratops horns and how well done this is. I'm sure you've noticed that the only issue that we're going to have with these paint apps are the eyes on the helmet. For as much detail as they've put into these guys in getting the belt buckles right, getting the helmets, the silver on there right, the visors, the mouthpieces, everything, they didn't paint in the eyes. And that's really not a big deal. You can do that with like a paint marker or a Sharpie. Just give them a little dab, make the eyes stand out. But I can see people being upset about that. Now, remember, these, whoops, sorry, Kim. In the 6-pack that these come in, these basically come out to roughly less than $10 a figure. And that's pretty good, especially when you consider what they're trying to do with it, which, as we said, is get kids back into Power Rangers, get kids back into playing with toys. I think it's fantastic that they do come in a box set, because that is like instant collection. That's what made me want to pick this up and check it out, because I said when the Reignition campaign, whatever you want to call it, started, I said if I could get the entirety of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers team, I was going to do that just to have the Power Rangers, the Mighty Morphin series. Well, that's what they did. I would be very curious to see if going forward, if Playmates is going to do this type of set for all of the teams going forward. Like, will we get a 6-pack of Ninja Force? I'd be curious to see that. I would be very interested to see that. Also, I'm curious if they're ever going to release the figures individually, or if it's just always going to be the 6-pack. Because if you lose one, that's where we run into problems. If a figure breaks, if you lose a figure, if you damage one, just anything that you need, like a new yellow to replace a yellow that got lost or broken, how do you get your new yellow without having to buy an entire set of figures? We'll have to wait and see. Like I said, the weapons do not form the Blade Blaster. The weapons are actually very well done, because if I remember correctly, the Bandai weapons were not painted. They were all black. They did form the Blade Blaster, but they didn't have paint apps to them, and all of them are a very soft rubber. And because it has that child demographic that it's aiming for, I understand why. You're not going to put an eye out, you're not going to break them. They'll bend before they break. One thing that I do like is that, like, if you look at the axe right here, you can see where, like, there's the trigger, there's where the bow would lock into place. You can see, like, where the sword would connect up top. So it does, oh yeah, and even right there. So it does have like that look of being able to form, but it's not going to. And these are big and chunky. They're big and chunky because you can see detail. They're big and chunky because kids don't have nimble fingers, so they need something large. The hands are all just open grips, just like when we were kids, just like open C grips right there. As a matter of fact, the weapons are so chunky that the hands do have to stretch a little when you put the weapon in their hand. So they can get a grip on it, but it's a little bit awkward. But there you go. Zach and his big axe. Pretty much all of them have had their time up close except for Trini, so let's take a look at her and take a look at some things about the sculpt on these. I really don't like these knees. These knees are fairly ugly, and I think we've seen something like this like in the early Masters of the Universe Origins collection, where they just have the kneecap sort of come down and cover up the hinge, which I appreciate trying to hide the articulation, but that just looks hideous. Now on the good side, and I didn't notice this at first, but if you look at the boots right here, once again, going to the detail of the sculpt, that, like I said, the helmets look really good, and her helmet is no different, just once again, wish they would have colored in the black on the eyes. If you look at the boots right here, where it has like sort of the crinkle in the leather right there, I think that is a very nice touch. I think that's cool. That's an attention to detail that I really like, as well as like the band that's going over the toe of the boot right here. Her daggers, just like all of the other weapons, are a bit chunky, and you can see they are pretty oversized for what they're supposed to be, but once again, made for kids, minimal dexterity. That's easy for them to handle, and maybe a little harder for them to lose. So another bit of good news for collectors that may want to keep them in the box, but still take them out and play with them. Even with the bands cut, they do recess back into the plastic very well. And then you put them in the cardboard tray, and then you can slip it back into the box, and then you can keep them in the box, as well as putting them in that 6-pack box, because you can see here through the window that they still look good, even with the bands cut. However, this tray in here is a very tight fit, and getting the box open for the first time, you can see that I kind of butchered red right here, which is a bummer. But this is the worst one that I had. Other ones, it was mostly something like this, where like I dinged the cardboard trying to pull it out, or I ripped this tab right here. Getting them out of the box the first time can be a little tricky, at least it was for me. but at least you can get them back in and then save them, keep them in that 6-pack box if you would want to. Okay, here they are for size comparison. Pink and red, Kimberly and Jason. Next to Hasbro, Star Wars, the Black Series, Knights of the Old Republic, Darth Revan, and Darth Nihilus. The only figures that make Darth Revan and Darth Nihilus look big. Here they are beside Hasbro Marvel Legends, Psylocke, and Taskmaster. Here they are beside the only thing that I have from the Hasbro Lightning Collection, King Sphinx. And as always, here they are beside Airborne and me from the G.I. Joe Steel Corps. So this is it. The Playmates Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Reignition Team 6-pack. The entire team in one box for $58. And for what it is, I have to admit, I like it. Coming in at less than $10 a figure, this is a great set for children. And that is the important thing that you have to remember. This is for children. This is not going to replace or supplement the Lightning Collection line, unfortunately. And I can understand the Lightning Collection collectors being upset about that, because as far as I know, there are some teams from Lightning Collection that never got finished. This is an entire team in one box. And I think, like I said previously in the video, I'm going to be very interested to see if that Playmates is going to do this for every team moving forward. I could see it being a big advantage. Like, this would be great for like a birthday present, Christmas present, any holiday present, something like that. There it is. Everything that like your kid needs to start playing. There's just no monsters yet, and I think the only Rita that's out is part of like the Head Flipper collection. But from what I've seen, I think that's going to size up with these guys pretty well. Is this geared towards the correct demographic? Like, that is my big question. Or is this kind of running into the same thing that Playmates is doing with their Turtles line, that they're obviously trying to have them appeal to kids, but even kids that are into Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, are they actually buying the toys? Are they actually asking mom and dad to buy the toys? Now, other than on these ones anyway, on Mighty Morphin, other than the ugly knees and the trenching for the joints, especially in the hips, these look really good. So it feels like, once again, Playmates is trying to have their cake and eat it too. They're trying to create something with the intent of selling it to children, but they're also trying to make something that looks halfway decent that will appeal to adult collectors. However, I feel like adult collectors, i.e. the Lightning Collection collectors, are feeling a little burned right now, because there's no indication that Playmates is actually going to create a line or come up with a line that will match up to or supplement or replace the Lightning Collection. As a matter of fact, I think they've come right out and said they're not going to do that. I mean, currently, other than the reignition of the original series, there's not even anything new for Power Rangers on TV or on the big screen, and we're just sort of in a waiting pattern right now. And once the something new does come out, is there going to be a rush for them, for the Power Rangers, when that new project comes out? I don't know. Between me and you, I don't think lightning is going to strike twice. Don't touch that dial. Before you go, please remember to do all the YouTube things, like, share, comment, subscribe. If you already are a subscriber, what a legend you are. If you like what we do here and you want to help the channel grow, please consider becoming a member, whether through YouTube memberships or our Ko-fi monthly subscription. Links to that in the description below. Both of them for $1 a month, you can get access to exclusive content, such as our monthly member exclusive video. So until next time, my friends, play well, stay safe, stay healthy, and as always, thank you for watching.